launches a massive security operation as more than 100 world leaders arrive for a crucial summit on climate change. Plus, Pope Francis is about to arrive in the Central African Republic, what he's hoping to accomplish in the war-torn country. And Russia slaps tough sanctions on Turkey over the downing of a fighter jet. Hello, welcome to our viewers in the US and around the world. I'm Lynda Kinkade, and this is CNN Newsroom. World leaders will begin to arrive in Paris today ahead of the COP21 conference. Protests have erupted around the world to demand action on climate change ahead of the international summit, which begins on Monday. In Indonesia, protesters gathered at the city's centre urging the government to reduce dependency on fossil fuels. Protests have also been seen in Australia, New Zealand, Switzerland and the Philippines. 24 Greenpeace activists have been placed under house arrest, suspected of planning violent demonstrations. 120,000 police and soldiers will provide security for the event. Joining me now is CNN correspondent Phil Black, live from Paris. And Phil, obviously we've seen so many demonstrations across the world, people power calling for action on climate change. But in Paris, due to security concerns, demonstrations there were cancelled.
Yeah, that's right, Lynda. Paris was supposed to be the epicenter of this global public movement. Organisers had been planning really a huge march here. Hundreds of thousands of people, it was hoped, would take part, joining those people around the world in a popular demonstration, if you like, demanding a strong, ambitious result from the climate negotiations that are going to be taking place here over the next 2 weeks. But it's not to be. While Paris is making the commitment, stepping up and insisting that these talks go ahead, guaranteeing the massive security required to protect 147 heads of state, the tens of thousands of other people that will be attending the official part of this event, there has still been a cost, that festival-type aspect to it, the area where people themselves can get involved and pressure leaders and negotiators to come up with a real strong result. Well, that's been scaled back enormously, if not wiped out entirely. So the march can't go ahead. Activists are still planning other smaller, more nuanced events around Paris today. We're seeing lots of shoes having been volunteered, laid out at a location close to the march, or where the march was to be. That's obviously still an attempt to demonstrate numbers, support, will for securing a strong climate deal here. There's talk of a large human chain being formed in a part of Paris later today as well. These are much smaller than the hundreds of thousands of people expected for the march itself. But the hope, I think, that activists have is that the emotional reaction to the attacks here in Paris will be one that still encourages world leaders, their negotiators and representatives to work harder at coming up with a strong agreement at the end of the 2 weeks of talks. And that, many say, would be the ultimate act of defiance to those who took so many lives here in Paris just 2 weeks ago. Lynda.
Absolutely. And this, of course, this event would have already been a security headache even before those Paris terror attacks happened. Just give us a sense of the security situation.
Well, it's incredibly visible. It is everywhere, really. You mentioned 120,000 police, gendarmes, that's the military police, other security forces. That's nationally. That's how many people, as well as soldiers as well, that's how many have been mobilized to protect France at the moment. And then around the site of the conference itself, there's a big security perimeter there. A lot of streets are going to be locked off over the next 24 hours as more leaders arrive, as these talks get ready to begin officially tomorrow. There's 3,000 security forces there, or around that number there alone, protecting that site. So a massive operation. And when you get a sense of those resources that are required to hold something like this, to protect so many world leaders, so many other visitors and so forth, you can perhaps understand, and even the environmental activists themselves say they can understand why perhaps a huge march involving hundreds of thousands of people was something that the police, security forces and the government simply wouldn't have been able to deal with today. Lynda.
Yeah, huge effort there by a lot of people involved. Phil Black in Paris, we will check in with you later. Thank you very much for joining us.